We are officially on. Welcome to Muscle Activation Techniques. Let's get a list and see where everybody's from. Can you start typing that in for us, everyone? And why you are curious as well to learn about MAT and how it can benefit personal trainers.
Nice, we got a lot of people from different places.
Cool.
Ooh, London, Baltimore,
Sweet.
Montreal, Chicago. Hey.
We're worldwide, I love it. Fantastic.
That's great.
Is everyone personal trainers? Can we list an idea of what careers we're looking at? If we're coming out of personal training or just interested in MAT as a massage therapist?
Cool. Athletic therapists, personal trainers, wellness and fitness, personal training. Great.
Wonderful. So I'm Rich, MAT specialist here at the headquarters, and you're also going to hear Susie. She takes care of a lot of our back end stuff and helping the world learn more about MAT. So I'll give you a little bit about MAT and what it's about. MAT is a revolutionary approach to assess and connect a client's muscular system. And MAT will also examine the muscular system and its role in chronic pain and injury. So by correcting the muscle imbalances, we're then able to restore function and have an individual enjoy life in fitness or just in their life as a normal human being rolling around the world. So in that, I'm going to give you a little bit about myself. I was an ex-personal trainer, had background in chemistry in college. What I battled with during the time, every time I was working with a client, was you have a client with a hip pain or a foot pain, and you're training them and you have no idea how to improve these situations. You take exercises, corrective exercises, but problems still nag. So then through that, I started journeying through how I could become better at what I did. And in December 2007, I ran across MAT. And with that, I was able to find a way to become less frustrated in my work to help improve others in fitness and how they're exercising. So with all the challenges of being a personal trainer that you battle every day of going to bed at night thinking, oh, this client's not getting better and it keeps you up late. I'm sure you're the same way as I was at that time. And now wake up in the morning going, I have a tool to resolve that problem. That's what we want to try to accomplish with MAT, is give you an opportunity to have a tool you can assess and analyze an individual's muscular system to improve how they move in the exercises you're giving them and how they're performing outside in the real world. So the overview of today's presentation and webinar, we're going to see how someone like you will be able to help your clientele in an individual way as revolutionizing the way the health and wellness industry addresses the cause of pain. We're going to show you how to integrate MAT into your personal training session. And we're going to look at what common problems that I saw with this personal training clientele and how I used MAT to help that. And then we're going to look at how to increase revenue using MAT in your with the MAT certification program. And then at the end, we'll have time for more Q&A. So how is MAT revolutionizing the way health and wellness industries address the causes of pain? MAT is looking at the source of inadequacies in the muscular system. You know, the tissue is moving you around and helping you do things. We often forget that that actually has a communication system with how it's working in the body and how it's correlating and creating motions. We just think the body does it on it, it's just going to do it. Well, there's got to be a feedback with the muscular system to the brain on what's actually happening. So if the muscular system cannot move your body equally within a joint and side to side, then your body may tell your brain is not happy with this current situation, and you might have a pain experience. So we've all dealt with this. We all just call it, oh, you're just compensating. What if we can address these compensations and improve how your muscular system addresses this issue? So with MAT, we address this issue with a system of checks and balances in a systematic process throughout the whole body. So we can look at your hip, see what's inadequate there in motion, and look at it side to side to make sure you are equal on both sides. So I'm sure you have had a client where one foot will dive in or a knee will dive out, and the client will say, well, why is that doing that? Well, we'll just adjust the exercise. Well, if it's a body problem, we're addressing the exercise, and the body's actually challenged in this, this can be a problem going forward in an exercise plan, and it potentially can cause degradation in joints in themselves. So we want to create a muscular system that can handle all this stress from exercise and from life so you can keep pushing forward in progression in your training. We'll do assessments, and as we assess a client's fitness and how they exercise, and be it cardiovascular, be it in strength, and you get to a client to a point where they get to a plateau, but we don't we just keep going in one plateau, which is okay because some clients are okay with maintaining where they're at, but some clients want to progress and do more. With MAT, we find out why the muscles aren't contracting at the level we need them to, so we can push them over that plateau and excel farther and do better things with their training programs. Very good. So how would you integrate MAT into your personal training session? This is where it gets really cool and extremely valuable in what you can do. So you have a client who's complaining of maybe a knee or hip pain, and you notice that knee is not moving the same as the other side, or the hip's not rotating or flexing or extending the same as the other side. We can then look at that limitation in motion and find out what muscles within that by assessing that motion and testing those muscles, what could be weak. And if there's weak tissue in those motions, we can address that with MAT, and then we come back and we can reassess to make sure there's a change and then move forward with the exercise. This is very valuable and immediately within 10 minutes improving a client's experience on an exercise such as a knee extension exercise or a leg curl exercise. And then with that, they don't have any pain in the motion and you're seeing more motion move, and then all of a sudden you can lower or increase the weight on this weight stack and the client's moving more weight than they were just the previous week. With this increasing experience, you're going to be able to find out find clients that are really enjoying working with you at a higher level than they would have previously. This all happens through the MAT process. So for me, what happened when this value increased, my services were actually increased as well. So I was differentiating myself away from other trainers in my club or in the whole community. So Rich can do this whole totally different thing in your exercise program. So all of a sudden, I have more clients wanting to come see me. So as my value increased, my volume also increased, which then is really nice for a personal trainer because it's difficult to set yourself apart without lowering your price. You now have a greater value in what you can offer a client, so your price increases, which gives you a little more satisfaction in what you're doing every day financially, but even more satisfaction on how you want to help a client and improve their life. So the whole opportunity to enjoy your life and increase yourself is at a higher level while increasing someone else's life experience.
So real quick, Rich, back onto this page for integrating into personal training sessions.
Yes.
Did you say that you typically started your session by assessing someone's range of motion, kind of like checking it out, and then being able to put them under stress with weight-bearing exercises?
Correct. So what would happen is, say you have a client who's doing a leg extension exercise, and you decide to do one leg at a time. You'll notice one leg has no problem going through a 10-rep set, while the other leg might get to 6. So you notice there's a weakness there, right? And also it wouldn't even go to the full range as the left leg. So we can then go to the right leg, look at the weakness, and test those tissues related, and then find out, okay, these muscles were weak, and then go back into that exercise, and all of a sudden you're able to get 10 reps on each side at the same weight, and the motion's the same as well. So very valuable in exercise such as that, and that can be correlated in the other exercise.
So would you say, like, with your client base, like MAT is able to reach all different ages, all different athletic? Like,
Correct.
In what ways did you see that?
So varying clients from early teens to late 90s, with each individual, there was different performance aspects of training with them, but the principle stayed the same. So with every individual, we saw that a young client would respond really fast and increase strength faster, where if you had an older client, you can really fine tune those motions that can cause challenge in just a simple exercise as doing a simple squat and sitting down in a chair. So we go through each motion in the foot, the knee, and the hip, rather than trying to do that on the exercise floor, so they can do a squat easier in a uniform, controlled, complex motion.
Cool. So would MAT be a good pre-training evaluation? I feel like we already said that, but essentially, you know.
Yeah, so as an assessment, just generally to see if a client's ready to work out, it's very valuable in that as well. So if you're going to be doing a shoulder day, you can pre-assess a client before the session begins and go through all their shoulder motion and see what might be limited that day, and then go into the exercise program you have planned if there's no limitations. But if there is a limitation, then you can address the limitation and then go into the exercise plan you had for the day, and at the end reassess to see if you stress anything during that exercise plan. So you actually have the client leaving happier than they would have normally.
Yeah, and we're going to be getting a little bit into that further down, but thank you, that was helpful.
So what really happens is your business grows and the volume increases. So there's a supply and demand issue that happens. So your supply, you're only available so many hours in a week. So as the supply increases, then you have to actually raise your rates to counter that supply. So then, as a actually personal training business, your volume of revenue is increasing from that as well.
I know you guys, not all of you guys can see the slides, but Rich was talking through kind of on that increasing revenue and then also being able to really maintain a healthy work-life balance if you guys.
Yeah, so you're not overworking yourself to try to make more money by putting more volume in with lower rate. Now you have a higher rate and a volume that's enabling you to do more things in life with family and friends and children.
Okay.
So some of the common problems we see are retaining clients. That's a great challenge in a personal training business. So you have a client going through the getting better. All of a sudden they either plateau or they might be overtrained and they end up getting injured and clients don't come back. And this can be a big problem for most trainers in keeping clients on their schedule due to injury or pain or overtraining. With MAT, you can counter that issue by keeping clients on your schedule by having increased muscular function, which can potentially reduce pain, reduce injury, and keep them from being overtrained from the exercise. And the price range is really tough to battle too. So if you're a personal trainer and you can't differentiate yourself and you're pretty much no different than any other client outside of your love and passion and energy for clients, MAT can set you apart by offering a further product that is not just going in, doing exercises, and going through sets and reps. You now have a scenario where clients can improve and get stronger via a process that you can check regularly and then improve the client training experience through that.
So how would you talk to like your PT clients about MAT, like your personal training clients?
So this is an interesting transition into that. Is what we want to try to do is show them how their muscular system is the primary source of how you move. So and in an exercise. So when you're looking at introducing it, what you want to tell them is there could potentially be a weakness in your hip musculature that can be causing the back pain you're having right now, or the lack of progress in your training program. So with MAT, we introduce this in, and we can actually improve your training program by increasing what exercises you can do and how your strength in those exercises are going to increase, which then will in turn to a better lifestyle, whatever they're trying to accomplish, whatever the goals are from your assessment.
Cool. Okay. So in layman's terms, your client would come in and you would just be like, hey, we're going to try this MAT thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to hop you on the table, check out your range of motion.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Okie dokie. So let's hop right into this one. So with all of the examples that you gave previously about how common problems in the personal training industry and how that, played into your success, how did MAT help with those things? I know you briefly touched on that, but.
So the challenges of a personal trainer are what rate do you charge, how do you keep clients on your schedule, and how do you balance that with your work and life? Because typically with trainers, you're 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. sometimes. I remember working 12 to 16-hour days, and that made it very challenging to get enough clients in to make enough money to survive in the world. So with that, what I found out was these previous issues, they resolved by setting myself apart and making me a highly valuable asset as an MAT specialist in the fitness community, which then allowed me to keep clients, had a better training experience, which led to greater client retention and a higher rate of price I could charge with the increased demand that I was getting from the community as well. So this MAT process can totally change how you are a personal trainer, in that the client will learn that this is a valuable tool, not just to go do exercises, but to check how your muscular system handled those exercises, and then turn MAT into a assessment tool and a strength tool to increase muscular strength with the exercise, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a really good point. Can you expand a little bit more on that?
In what way?
So you're talking about having like MAT, not only it is a checks and balances system. So just a specific example of a client that you've seen come in, like for instance, someone with an ACL injury and they're post-op,
Mhm.
and they're 6 months out, but they're not feeling quite back to the way that they could function before.
Correct.
So
Okay. So you have a post-ACL rehab client that's already been through PT. They're now in your room, or in your training room. They're going through exercises. You're noticing the body shift in a squat, a lunge side to sides imbalanced. They're still not stable going lateral motions. So with MAT, what you can do is you can go through what these limited motions are. So if you have one hip abduction, which is a very large lateral motion mover, we can go into the muscles that move the hip laterally, test each one of those while they're on the table, and then treat the tissue, and then retest it to make sure they're strong, and then you go back into the hip abduction machine and make sure the muscles are working in different ranges, equally both sides, and different strength levels and different sets and reps. So through that, you have a client that is now coming out and being more confident in their individual motions, which then transitions into confidence in fuller motions and playing and doing agility training and so on and so forth.
yeah, that's really good. So someone has a question about how they're currently a MAT specialist, and they're wondering how they could potentially kind of shorten up this during their sessions with doing the cams. Do you have like a example of timing for an hour? Like, let's say an hour-long session is all you have with a client.
Yep.
How would you kind of give an example on that?
So you have an hour-long session where you want to do MAT and training?
Yeah.
Okay. So breaking body, most trainers like to break body parts down. So if we're looking at just a shoulder day in the weight room and maybe adding in some abdominal training. So you're going to look at the general shoulder cams of whatever you're going to train that day. You're going to look at whatever trunk muscles you're going to train that day, whatever motions you're going to train that day. You're going to assess those cams and then treat those cams, and then come back and train those cams. So you're going to spend probably half the session in MAT and half the session in a training. However, you also know you have the pick you can look at, which is a valuable tool also. So doing the jumpstart version of MAT and in the beginning, right, and then going into training. That's also a tool you can use. You don't have to just go through and do the DFMAT version with each client and go through each muscle individually. You can actually assess positions, making sure they're strong, and then go and exercise. And then if we're still having challenges, then maybe spend a whole hour in a training session with MAT and then follow up and go back to what you're doing before to see how they were handling that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was really. Now I'm kind of just jumping into some questions here that we're receiving, you guys. So keep spitting us questions. But I do want to let you both know, I want to let everyone know that you'll be receiving both the webinar and the slides after this, because I recognize that some of you aren't able to see the PowerPoint. So just know that that's going to be coming your way after this. But so someone's curious, what, if any, source books could someone get their hands on to learn more about MAT?
There are really no books available out there. The best way to get involved in MAT is to join one of our online programs through Broadway University. And in that, you will learn about, in the beginning, the introduction of MAT in detail, and then diving into the MAT processes and how we look at this body in a systematic manner.
We do have quite a bit of stuff up on YouTube if you guys want to watch, some stuff of Greg giving lectures. We also have a Jumpstart program that focuses more on isometrics than palpation therapy, so you can take a look at that course as well. Let me keep going through here. Do you have any note-taking tips?
Note-taking, was this from MAT specialist?
This is from a new specialist.
A new specialist.
Mm-hmm.
So in note-taking, what I'm looking at is when you look at a cam and the range of motion, you're seeing how the quality of the motion is. Is it abrupt end? Is it kind of soft? And then also whenever I test a muscle, I'm looking at what is going on. When I bring the muscle up, or when the muscle comes up into a test, is it kind of jumpy, or is it solid, or is it totally soft? Does it totally die off? Those are the kind of notes I'm looking at initially to kind of get a feel for what this client's body's how the body's handling everything. And then through each range of motion or cam we're assessing which muscle was probably the weakest, right? So I note that later if I want to come back and double check that. And then what muscles are repeatedly weak. So in those, it's what am I missing in those parts and not keeping that muscle strong and not giving it a good foundation.
What would be your best way to, almost like an elevator speech for MAT, for you as an MAT specialist?
Elevator speech for MAT. There's so many versions of this, and it depends on the individual I talk to. So say I have typically middle age is what we usually have these questions come from. So a middle-aged man who is a weekend warrior, we'll say, and how can this help me? Well, on the weekends, they're pretty much blazing through their body and destroying themselves. Especially out here, we have a lot of those climbing the mountains and cycling and doing activities such as that. They come back down here in the valley and they're going to work and training. So in that instance, what I want to say is, how well you're recovering. MAT has an opportunity to measure the recoverability of your muscular system from all these activities and how you're handling them. And we can come in, we can assess the motion, and then we assess the muscular system with those motions and enable you to recover faster from your activity so you can perform better and do more possibly during the week to enjoy the weekends more. And that's where I would fit into your world. That would give you an idea of that.
That's great.
So many questions. I love it.
So many questions. All right.
That's why we're here. Ask away.
Yeah, keep coming.
Let us know how we can help you.
Cool. I'm still digging, guys. Let's see. We got one. Do you know much about FMS?
FMS, functional movement screening.
So how would you, so similar to FMS, like MAT, I know we talked about that briefly, talking through a pre-training evaluation.
Yep.
So yeah, you could consider that.
So FMS is a great evaluation tool to see how the body's moving in a general state. The beauty of MAT is we're looking at individual joint motions and then how those correlate into potentially causing these movement screenings that we're seeing that are off. So by assessing the FMS and looking at that, and then adding MAT and looking and breaking it down to see what is possibly limited, and then redoing an FMS, you can then see how powerful MAT is a tool in improving how people move and how well they can adapt to things in the world, and then add in exercise, FMS, and see what happens there. So all the assessment tools are great keys to finding limitations in motion. MAT is the key tool to correcting those limitations in muscular function.
That's great. Someone asked a question about the word treat, and if treating the tissue, are we talking about pressure, palpation?
In MAT, a treatment is considered in an isometric version, which is we use as a pick, and then DFMAT is the palpation version we use to stimulate the tissue in the muscular system.
To kind of to bring back that contraction.
Yep.
Or contractility.
And improve the feedback loop in the muscular system.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, that's more of an MAT session question. In the MAT session, how would you prioritize what muscles to do if you don't have enough time to get through all of them?
Very, very challenging, right? So the challenge there is knowing the individual, number one, what their needs are, and then what you're seeing as being the source of the problem. And so if you are a trainer and you're seeing situations in trunk musculature being a problem, or you're seeing situations in like a squat being a problem, maybe they're doing a lunge and they're diving weird, we need to know what is consistently off in motion. So is it a transverse plane motion? We're seeing something off here, frontal plane motion, sagittal plane motion. See what is consistently off, and then look at the motions related to that and the muscles related within that motion. So if that makes some sense, and what I think how you're asking where to begin, that's what you want to see is what plane of motion is the greatest limitation in motion, and then dive into that and see what muscles could be related to those motions that are limited.
Nice. All right, this is a good question. It's pretty long.
Okay.
So during a personal training session, have you encountered a MAT assessment where you had to back off plans to continue the intended course of exercises, and how did you communicate that with your client to manage the process to the end of the current session so that you could plan for the next session? So basically, you know, have you had to interrupt your?
Yes, we have to adapt to the situation, right?
Mhm.
So you say you're halfway through a session and you realize we probably shouldn't finish the second half of the session. What was really going on? Then you show them why. And if you show them why, you're going to show you're caring about their future and what's going to happen and what potentially could go wrong, why we're not going to do this. That empathy is enough. The client is not going to look at you wrong. They're going to realize that, oh, he cares about me, or she cares about me in a way that is important to my future and my well-being. So what I might do is, one, finish what I was doing and correct the issue, or two, I might go a different direction and train that last half hour on a totally different scenario that I knew would be good, so they still have the benefit of exercise in that session. So one of those two paths is where you want to go.
That's great. All right, guys, I know that not everyone can see the end slide, but it basically just says if you have more questions, please feel free to reach out to our education department at info@muscleactivation.com, and we'll be able to answer those questions for you as quickly as possible. Oh, there's actually one more that this is going to be a good one. So, Rich, do you know much about neurokinetic therapy, NKT?
Neurokinetic therapy, I do not. I think I've heard of it along the way, but I do not necessarily know what that perspective is.
Got it. Okay.
Sorry.
Cool. No, don't be sorry. Okie dokie. So we will make sure to send out these slides. We'll send you guys the recorded video of our handsome MAT practitioner, Rich. Thank you for joining us today.
For sure.
And really appreciate you guys all coming and, you know, send us feedback. If you guys want to hear more from us, what topics you're curious about, we absolutely want to keep providing you with these opportunities to connect. So, yeah, can't wait to hear from you and have a good rest of your day.
If you have more questions, shoot them our way. We're here to help.